I mean, I think he's going to talk tough, whether it's going to be on North Korea or on US-China trade. He has his eyes firmly on the midterms. His back's against the wall because of the Supreme Court nomination, and I think you can expect him, although he is sometimes respectful in these most sort of big forums, I don't expect he's going to mince his words. So I think on all of these fronts, you'll hear quite an aggressive, punchy presentation from President Trump.
You know, James, you know, in the light of the midterms, I mean, Trump hasn't really had any accomplishments with regards to trade other than being able to impose tariffs, which consumers are starting to feel a little bit. Do you think he's going to go all in and continue the political rhetoric on tariffs in light of the fact that this could backfire with independents in the midterms?
Absolutely, I think he's going to do that. I mean, I rather disagree with you. I don't think consumers are going to feel anything in their pockets for quite a long time, whereas the political upside, both for Republicans and frankly also for Democrats, of China bashing is immediate. So I think Trump thinks he's onto a winner here. And unfortunately, from a political point of view, I fear that he's right. I think this morning's news that the Chinese have decided to call off these talks and bring Liu He, their most important economic technocrat, back is very significant. I mean, in the end, the risk is now that not only Trump escalates, but the Chinese also decide that their strategy of being relatively modest has been wrong and that they start to escalate too. And so I think the political dynamics on both sides are very worrying.
In what ways do you see the Chinese escalating? Because, right, I mean, they've basically put on tariffs on almost everything they can now that they've got this other $60 billion coming. So it has to be through non-tariff measures if they're going to escalate. Do you see a lot of harassment of companies coming? Do you see other barriers coming into play, slow walking of regulations, outright restrictions on foreign direct investment in terms of the escalation?
Well, so, Steve, this is a classic game of chicken, as you know, and the problem the Chinese are in is their economy is smaller, so they can't keep playing tit for tat, matching Trump for each time because they'll run out of road. And so, you know, they have to begin considering other options. I think there is a case to say that the Chinese have actually misplayed their hand in the way that they've handled this, and they should have escalated more quickly earlier. Now, you and I hope that that doesn't happen, but in the end, the Chinese have their own point of view. And it isn't accidental, I think, that you're seeing senior people in the ambit of Xi Jinping beginning to talk about things like messing with Apple's supply chain. In the end, they need to send a signal to the US that they're serious about this and that there's consequences to Trump for continuing to ratchet this up. And that's the problem that we're in, that from the Chinese point of view, ratcheting up is beginning to look more sensible, but for all the rest of us, that could be a disaster.
And now maybe on a slightly positive side, as U.S.-China tensions continue to escalate with no end in sight, could you see China and India coming together and actually getting, you know, the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, 16-country trade agreement moving forward, which would help those in the region and exclude the U.S. from this market more so than it is?
I mean, it's not impossible. You see that as China gets more and more on the back foot with the US, they're more and more amenable to their allies. So you've seen them reaching out to Japan and to a limited extent for India. So it's not impossible that that kind of thing can begin to happen. China is going to look again at the friends that it wants to win as it goes toe-to-toe with Trump. On the other hand, I think it's a bit of a stretch to think that the Indians who have been dragging their feet on RCEP are suddenly going to, in the next few months, with an election looming in that country as well, suddenly turn around and start signing up to that. So I think that's unlikely, but I do think you'll see China thinking, well, if we're going to have bad words with the US and this is going to get worse, then we need to make friends with everyone else. And that means the Europeans, it means the Japanese, and to some extent it means the Indians.
Still watching? Perfect. Click here to watch another great video from CNBC International. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.